Now, earlier, I spoke with Bruce Stokes. He is the Director of Global Economic Attitudes for the Pew Research Center. I asked him how much support the EU is giving British Prime Minister David Cameron as he pushes for that trade deal with China.
Well, he's probably appealing to a base in Britain. We know from our surveys at Pew that the British are overwhelmingly supportive of free trade, 87%, among the highest in the world. There's not a lot of manufacturing left in Britain, so the fear of Chinese imports is lower than, say, in some other European countries. There is a sense that China is an economic opportunity. Only the Dutch share that in Europe. Everybody else in Europe thinks China is an economic challenge or a danger. So he's speaking very much to his domestic base. But as you suggest, right now, as a member of the European Union, assuming they continue to be a member of the European Union, any trade deal with China is done by the EU. It's not done by Britain alone. And Britain's compatriots in the European Union are much more skeptical of China.
And Cameron is throwing his full political weight behind this, going over there saying, I will fight as hard as I can to make this happen. He has a lot to gain. He's talking about instantly $3 billion more U.S. coming in to Great Britain, which they need. Part of this proposed deal talks about actually even having the ability to work on nuclear plants and having China work with Great Britain on building a high-speed rail from London to the north of England. So very positive steps here.
Oh, very positive and very reflective of what China's trying to do going forward. The Chinese have the money to invest in, for example, high-speed rail. Most countries don't, and so it's part and parcel of a broader initiative by the Chinese to ramp up in foreign investment overseas, especially in Europe and the United States. It will endear them to the publics in those countries, without a doubt. So the knock-on political consequences of this for future governments should be thought about. Because we know when the Japanese invested a lot in the United States back in the 1980s, 20 years later, the politics towards Japan had changed dramatically.
Exactly. And I think that's one thing. Is Great Britain ahead of the curve right now?
Well, I do think that Britain is in a bit of a unique position in the sense that they've always been great supporters of free trade and investment, going back to the 1700s. They may be acknowledging that, look, China is the future. I mean, our data show that the British already think that China is the #1 economy in the world, even though factually it's not, but they believe that. And they believe that China will surpass the United States as the global superpower.
Okay, give me your best guess for how people are going to cover this 2 weeks from now. It's a large trade group, more than 100 individuals going with Cameron. What are people going to be saying 2 weeks from now?
My guess is they will have moved on to other issues. You get a flurry of activity on these issues when a leader visits China. Business is very interested, obviously, in what transpires. We know, though, from the studies done by the European Chamber of Commerce in Beijing, that there's a high degree of frustration by European businesses in China. Things don't work out quite the way they had hoped. They may have had unrealistic expectations, we don't know, but that's what they tell these surveys. Same as with the U.S. investors in China. So my guess is great deal of flurry of activity right now. Then the hard part begins, and there's going to be no free trade agreement between Europe and China anytime soon.
That was Bruce Stokes. He is the head of Global Economic Attitudes for the Pew Research Center.